Welcome to How to Cook That. I'm Reardon, and today, after so many requests, we're making a Baymax cake from Big Hero 6. You can make just Baymax or you can make Hero 2. I'll show you how to make both of them for this one. The first thing you'll need to do is bake 6 20cm cakes, and I'm using my rich chocolate cake. You can find the recipe and the video for that on the howtocookthat.net website on the Baymax blog post. And there you can also get the template for this cake, and you need to print that out and cut it out. Once your cakes are all cooled, level off the tops using a knife or a cake leveler, and then we're ready to start. Take the circle template that's numbered 1 and place it over the cake. Then using a serrated knife, cut around the template. Now, a standing up cake like this one is going to need some structure to hold it up. And when we made the minion cake, I showed you how to use a wooden cake board and supports, and you can use that for this too, and that's what I would suggest you use. But some people asked, what can you do if you don't have a drill? So this time I'm using a purchased plastic support system to test it out. The pieces slot together, they don't screw together, so I suspect it won't be strong enough for a cake this big, but we'll try anyway. I've put it to one side of the cake board because we want room for Hero, but if you're just making Baymax, then you can put your support in the middle instead. Make a hole in the center of your cake for that support rod to go through, and do the same with your next cake. Now, we haven't cut that one, that's just a 20cm cake. Put some of your frosting on top, and I'm using a mixture of buttercream and white chocolate ganache for this. And then place them onto the cake support. And then because these cake supports are made to set heights, we'll have to cut a thin layer of cake to build it up to the next layer of support. If you're using your own and you're using the wooden ones, then you can just put the supports where it works with the cakes. Add that thinner layer followed by the next support, and then add another cake. The reason why you need the pieces of support in the middle there is because otherwise the weight of the cake would just squash it down. Hold up your body template and check where you're up to, add another cake on top, and then once you're up to that top one, then cut out the circle numbered 5 so that you've got that smaller circle, put a hole through the middle and add that to the top. Place the body template in front of the cake and cut around that Baymax shape that you've got there. Turn your cake 90 degrees so you're looking at the other side of it, and use that same template and cut it around so that you've cut off the extra cake. And this will leave you with a shape like this. It's rounded on 4 sides and then kind of a bit squarey on the others. So you need to use a knife and just carve it to match it so that it's smooth and rounded the whole way around, a bit like a Mr. Potato Head. Then place the side template over one side of the cake, and we want to flatten out an area on the front of his chest so he's got like a big belly and a bit flatter in the chest area. Now take a spatula and cover the whole cake in a thin layer of frosting, and the frosting recipe is on the website too. And this is getting pretty wobbly. I'd suggest you only use these pre-made systems if you're doing a small cake, or if you're doing something big like this, then just spend your money on buying a drill instead and make your own support. You could of course make him sitting down as well if you'd rather do that. Take some of the cake that you've trimmed off and crumble it up, and then add some frosting and mix it through. We're going to use this mixture to make his legs. Roll it into a fat cylinder shape, place it on the leg template, and then shape it to the right size, just squashing it and reshaping it there. Repeat that on the other leg, and then make an indent for the middle support rod, because when we put those legs on, we want them to sit right close together so that it hides that support. Add the legs into place, just adjust the height as you need to make them fit properly, and once you're happy with them, then take them off the cake and put them on a plate in the fridge. And I like to put the whole cake in the fridge as well for that first layer of frosting to firm up. While that's in the fridge, we're going to make the face. So grab the face template and roll a ball of fondant, and then use the palms of your hand to roll it narrower at one end for the chin there, so that it's the same size as the one on the template. Then take a chunk of fondant and place it underneath some baking paper under the back of the head or the back of the chin area, just to support it up. Line up the bottom of his chin with the template, and then at the level of the bottom of his nose, make an indent going across. Then using the pointy end, push up to make a nostril, and then do that again to make the other one. And then once you've got those, use your 2 little fingers and push either side. Now this is making the bridge of his nose, and it's also making the indent at the top there for his eye area, so you can start to see where his eyebrows are going to be. Then use your tool to help you define the sides of his nostrils there and on the top of his nose to make a cute little button nose. Once you're happy with that, cut a piece off a drinking straw and then cut it up the middle so that you can open up the straw, and then use that to make a cut where his mouth is. Pull open the bottom of his mouth and then lift up the top lip. In most people, if you look side on, you'll see the top lip is coming forward a bit from where the nose is. Then close his mouth and make an indent down from the side of his mouth down his chin, just a little one, and then push this up and smooth it out to make his bottom lip there. Now for his eyes are shut because he's giving Baymax a big hug. Just define the brow area a little more and make sure it's angled downwards like it is on the template, and then roll 2 tiny balls of fondant, making them slightly teardrop shaped towards the outside of the eye, and then just place them into place, and once they're there, just adjust it a bit to make sure they're in the same spot. You don't want one higher than the other. Take some black gel food colour and a small paintbrush, and it's a good idea to have a scrap of fondant that you can just brush on and practice on to make sure it's going to look right, and then paint on his eyebrows going downwards just like we've got on the template there. Now carefully draw a little line going across the eyelid so that we can see that his eyes are shut, and that's the line where they're shut. Use a little bit of pink luster dust on a dry paintbrush just to brighten up his cheeks. Now for his ears, roll a little ball of fondant, squash it on one side and poke a hole in it and put that into place. Now ears generally go from the level of the eye down to the level of the mouth. So just pop that on the side of the head lining up there, and repeat that on the other side. Place a cake pop stick down the middle so that we can hold him by that without squashing his face while we do his hair in a minute. Now for his legs, roll some fondant onto 2 cake pop sticks and keep rolling it around until you get it nice and skinny at the ankles. Now I'd suggest making these fondant details his face and his legs at least a couple of days ahead so that they can dry out and be firm when you're adding them to the cake. I'm not doing that today because I'm getting it all filmed for you in one day, but if you are making it yourself, definitely do it ahead. By now your cake should be ready for a second coat of frosting. Cover it over with more frosting. Now the first coat we did is called a crumb coat, and what that does is it catches all the crumbs so that it keeps this second coat nice and clean. Once you've covered it, take some acetate or thin plastic and curve it and run it up the sides of the cake to smooth it. Now we want to wrap the whole cake in fondant, and I'm going to make him join at the front of mine because Hero will be covering most of that. If you're not making Hero, then you want to make your join at the back. Put the fondant on the cake like a coat, wrapping it around, and then just lift and just place it there, smoothing it out. Just lift and smooth until you've got it joining at the front. Now squeeze those 2 parts of fondant together and then trim off some of the excess from around the base and smooth the fondant around the body. Trim a bit more off the join and squeeze together those pieces, and then trim it off nice and close and rub it to smooth it down. Now cover the legs in a thin coat of buttercream and wrap them up in fondant as well, a bit like you're wrapping up a present. Squeeze it up on the top and trim off the excess. Then add the legs into place, pushing them in to hide that central support. Now back to Hero's legs. Roll a cylinder of brown fondant the size of the pants leg and then trim off the skin fondant at about knee height. Now make a hole in the base of the pants, just making that big so that it's thin around the edge, and add the leg into the middle. Now because he's leaning forward to hug Baymax, the excess fabric should be just swinging out at the front of his leg, so just push it to one side. Now make a line down one side of the leg and add fabric creases going down from that line. Next add some little hem stitching marks around the edge. To make the pocket, cut a strip the width shown on the template and then cut another 2 really thin strips and place them along the side edge of the pocket. Just use a little bit of water to make that stick on there. Then trim it across the top and base to make it the right height, and then cut another little strip and put it across the top. Now use a toothpick to make stitching lines and you have a very neat pocket. We want to roughen it up a bit so it looks a bit more like fabric, so it flows and has some curves rather than exact straight lines. Then use a little bit of water and add it into place. For his shoe, roll an oval of black and flatten it out at the toe end, and then trim the heel, cutting straight down using a knife. Make a hole where his foot should go into his shoe and continue to shape it so that it matches the template. Now use a knife to cut a little triangle out on each side so you're defining where the tongue of the shoe is separated from the back of the shoe. Place it onto some white fondant that you've rolled out and cut around it to make the sole of the shoe, and then just use your fingers to smooth around the edge so that you don't have any rough bits. Put a tiny bit of water on the front and then add some really thinly rolled white fondant across the top of the front bit of the shoe there. And then lift up the shoe and using a knife cut around the white just above the sole so you get a line of black going around there. Then draw a line down the side with a knife right down where the tongue goes or where the sides come up, and then roll a super thin flat snake of white fondant and use a skewer to poke it into the shoe. Take it across the shoe and poke it in again on the other side. Then back across towards us again and then poke it in again. So you're adding the shoelaces, lacing up the boot. Once you get to the top, make a loop and push it into the middle. Then another loop and push it in, and then just pull those loops down so they're hanging down and it covers the hole. For his hands, we want to roll a snake of fondant and make it thinner at the wrist, and then flatten out the hand part and cut out a triangle so that we have his thumb a bit separate from his fingers. Now make 3 cuts for his fingers and using your knife gently push to round the tops off. We don't want square fingers. Then with your knife gently indent the tops of his fingers in the middle, about at the level where his knuckles would be, and then make an indent for his fingernails as well, and you can use a straw for this. Now make a thick snake of white for his shirt and make a hole at one end just like we did when we were making his pants. Trim the arm a little bit shorter and make that end pointy and place it into the sleeve. Using your template on the side of the body, see where the oval of grey goes on Baymax's body and put that into place. Then again, checking with your template, add Hero's arm. Now most of his arm is lost under Baymax's big soft body, so just squash it down and trim it off. Now add an oval of grey to his leg, and then add that again on the other side and add the other oval of grey on the other hand, and make sure you add the badge to his chest. Realistically, there is no way that Hero's arms are this long. They couldn't reach all the way around, but we're going to make it look like what it looks like in the movie. Roll out some bright blue fondant thinly and use it to cover the baseboard. Now because Baymax is so white, it's nice to add some colour here to brighten up the cake. Now for Hero's hair. Use the template to cut out what will be the back of his hair. And cut the top jagged too, just so we don't have a straight line there, and add it on. Now he looks a bit like he's got a very receding hairline, don't worry, we'll fix that. Cut some jagged strips for around the side and place them on one at a time around the front of his head. Now don't forget he has one big chunk of hair that comes down between his eyes. For his t-shirt, roll a cylinder of red and then flatten it out so it's a bit more box-like, and then bend the top around for the top of his arms reaching up, and then split that top bit into 2. Add a cake pop to the side of the cake at the level where you want Hero's head to sit. Remove the upright stick from his head and then add his head into place. Now in hindsight, I've done this the hard way around. I should have started with his feet instead of started adding with his head. You can do it the other way. Now place his red shirt on using a little water to hold it into place and flatten out the arms onto the side of the cake. Now if you don't have any helpers and you've gone head down to feet like I did, you can use a cup to support the body while it sticks onto the cake. Add a few more bits of black hair to the top of his head and then add in the legs. Yes, definitely would have been easier to start with the legs first. I don't know what I was thinking. And now roll a ball of white to make Baymax's head and shape it to match the template. Cut out 2 eyes and roll a tiny snake. Add the snake and then add the eyes and use 2 cake pop sticks to hold the head into place. Now do the same thing with the arms, and you can make these out of Rice Krispies like I showed you how to do with the Hulk fist on the Avengers cake, so that they're not too heavy for the side of the cake. Add another oval to Baymax's elbow and then add his other arm and some fingers onto the back of Hero's head. Then add a little bit more hair, like a tuft of hair going over the top of his fingers, and it's done. Baymax is giving Hero a big hug. Now, my top tips for this cake are 1, use a stronger cake stand, and 2, definitely let your fondant head and legs dry out completely for a couple of days before adding them to the cake. Subscribe to How to Cook That for more cakes, chocolates and desserts. All the recipes and templates are on the howtocookthat.net website. Click here for last week's fruity meringue recipe and the chance to win a golden ticket, and here for the rest of my videos. This cake was requested by Catherine, Emma, Jawokso, I think that's how you say it, and all these other wonderful people. Put all your requests in the comments below. Have a great week, and I'll see you all on Friday. If you are satisfied with your care, please click the thumbs up and share this video.